In class, we've talked about form in music and repetition and patterns in music, and how understanding form and these patterns of repetition are kind of like recipes for us to create songs. So we have been talking about rhythm and creating drum tracks, but the next thing we want to add is what we call harmony. And harmony is when two or more notes are played at the same time. And harmony is very important in music because harmony kind of sets up sort of the mood or the background of the song that you're trying to create. So this video, I'm going to walk you through the steps of what we're going to do for this assignment, and we're going to be using Logic Pro. And Logic Pro is a professional level DAW, so it can be a little tricky to get around, but hopefully this video will help you as we go through this project. So if you've already been in Logic Pro and you have a project open, to create a new project, you want to come up to the drop-down menu on the top edge of your monitor and click on File, and you want to select New. Yes, I'm going to close if I have another file that was previously open, and this one I'm not going to save it. Now your screen is probably going to look a little different than mine because I'm running a different version, but you're going to be using a software instrument track. On your screen it's probably a green box that you want to select. And when we work on this, we always want to choose empty projects. So hopefully all that makes sense. And if not, I'll come around and help. So let me create my software instrument. So once you create the software instrument, it should look somewhat similar to this. Over here we have our preset library. And for the time being, let's just leave it on the default electric piano. So I'm going to click on this box up here to close this side window. Now, the button I'm going to leave open is what's called the inspector. And in the inspector, this is where we're going to find MIDI effects. And that's what we want to select for this project we're going to do. So if you click on MIDI effects, you're going to see a pop-up menu. And on the pop-up menu, you need to select chord trigger. When you select chord trigger, you'll get a new window that pops up. Once you're here, click one time up here where it says factory default. Then with this pop-up menu, you want to float your cursor over multi, and then you want to come over to the right and float your cursor over parallel chords. And then from here, you want to select triads. So again, we're going factory default to multi, to parallel chords, and to triads. So pause the video if you need to get this set up. So once you do that, your chord trigger should look like this. And at this time, you are going to use your Launchpad to trigger these sounds. And in your Launchpad, you're going to want to select keys at the top of the Launchpad. Then, if you look towards the bottom of the pad controller, you should see 4 buttons that are lit up: green, yellow, red, and purple. And if you press these pads, it should trigger a chord. So now we have our Launchpad ready and set up to create some harmony. But before we do that, we need to have something to play along with. So let's go over to the loop library in Logic. The loop library is located in the upper right corner of the Logic window. If you float, you'll see here, this is the loop browser. Now, the first time you open the loop browser, it may need to upload all of the audio files, and that can take a minute or two to happen. So if you get a little spinning circle, just be patient until you get everything uploaded. Once that's finished, the next step is to click on this box that says Instrument. Next, click on Beats. Once you've clicked on beats, now come back up and click on the box that says genre. And once you click on the genre box, you can choose any of these genres that you are interested in listening to. I'm going to go with funk. Once you pick a genre, go through and listen to the different drum loops that are available. If you find any that you like, you can click on this box to mark the ones that you like if you want to maybe come back and use them on another project. For this assignment, I would recommend that you stick with loops that are 16 beats long. And it may be hard to see, but that's what this column means. It's telling you how many beats are in the loop. You don't have to, but 16 would probably work best. Now, GarageBand works a little differently than Soundtrap. In Soundtrap, if you double click on a loop, it automatically adds it to the workspace. In Logic, you actually have to click on the loop in the loop library and drag it to where you want to place it in the workspace. It will automatically create a new track. So at this time, I would pause the video, browse through the loop library, find a drum loop that you like, and once you decide which drum loop you want to use, click, drag it over, and drop it into the workspace. Once you have that done, we can now close the side window for the loop library. Now for this assignment, you're going to create what is called a chord progression. And those 4 buttons that I showed you earlier you're going to use to create this progression. And as I said before, music is very repetitive. So you're going to pick a sequence that you're going to use these chords. And it could be any order that you want to. But a couple things to check before you get started. First of all, this phrase should be 4 bars. And if I click on the cycle bar, this is where you find it in Logic, should turn gold. If you want to zoom in, the zoom controls are over here in Logic. It's this light gray circle, click, and drag. So now you can see a little easier, you've got 4 bars. Pause the video if you need to adjust your screen so it looks similar to mine. Next, we're going to return to the Launchpad and those 4 colored buttons. So if I play them in order from left to right, green, yellow, red, purple. I can go in that order, but I could put them in a different sequence. I could go green, purple, red, yellow, or green, red, purple. Whatever order you choose is up to you. The only other thing you need to keep in mind is that in these 4 bars, you're going to use just one of these buttons per bar. The next step is, once you have your cycle bar turned on, is to hit your play so you can hear the drum beat and begin experimenting with the sequence of chords that you want to use. So again, I'm going to use 1 chord per bar. So notice how I use 1 chord per bar. I change to a different chord every time the playhead gets to a new measure. Now, once you've decided the sequence you want to play those 4 pads, the next thing you want to think about is adding some rhythm to it. So again, I'm going to listen and just kind of improvise some rhythms using the sequence of chords that I've decided to use. And I'm going to use green, red, purple, yellow. But now I'm going to add some rhythm to it, just by tapping on the pads like a drum. I'm going to wait for the playhead to get back to 1, and here I go. Now, once I can get an idea of the rhythm that I want to use, now I'm ready to record. So to record the harmonic progression, first of all, I want to make sure that this R button is selected on the track. And then I'm going to click on the red circle up here to record. Just like Soundtrap, I'm going to get a count off, but in Logic, it's only going to give me 4 beats instead of Soundtrap that gives me 8. So here we go. Okay, so you can see it's recorded exactly what I played. So this will be another good time to pause the video, decide what sequence you want to make with the 4 chords, put some rhythm into it, and then record. Now after you record, there's probably some things you're going to want to change or fix. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on this region. And when I double click on the region, I'll see the piano roll view here at the bottom. So one of the things I notice is that when I play this, I'm not hearing this very first note. And the reason I don't hear it, if you notice, the beginning of the note happens just before this green line. Now remember, MIDI tracks just contain data, it's instructions. And the very first instruction at the beginning of each of these red dashes and lines is basically a function to tell Logic to play the note. But because I played this note just before the measure starts, it never gets the instruction to play that note. So to fix this, I'm just going to click on this and slide it over and put it on the other side of the green line, and now I should hear it. That fixed it. Now, notice over here, I have this little blip, this extra note, and I don't want that note to be there. To fix it, I'm just going to click on it and then hit the delete key on my keyboard. Then I want to take this long note and put it at the beginning of the bar. So I'm just going to click it, slide it over. Now I'm going to listen to see what I've got. That's pretty good. Now, if you take a look really closely, you probably will notice that not all of my lines and dashes exactly line up with the grid, which is very typical when we record something like this in what we call real time. So to fix this, I'm going to quantize it. And you may remember, it's been a while, but when you recorded these drum beats in Soundtrap, I showed you how to quantize what you recorded, which cleans up these little inconsistent inaccuracies in the rhythm. So to do this in Logic, notice right over here it says time quantize. And let me see. First of all, I'm going to hold the Command key down and type the letter A to make sure I've selected all of these notes, Command A. And then I'm going to come over to the time quantize, and I'm going to quantize this to the 8th note. And you should notice all of this shifting over just a little. You see the shift? Now, once I do that, I'm going to go back and listen to it and see if I like the way it sounds now. I'm not sure I really like that. So I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to try to quantize this to the 16th note. you should have noticed it sets it up a little bit differently. Let me listen to it now. Yeah, that's closer to what I think I was trying to play. So that's the last part. After you record your harmonic progression, is to go in and quantize it, fix any little mistakes that you don't like. And next, you'll go to the next video and I'll show you the next step for this assignment.